I want to talk about two things tonight. The first came from a question from you, Christian, in regards to what does a distant student of mine, do to maintain maybe their skills or maybe learn or continue to learn from me. Like you are in Germany, or I have students in Brazil, I have students in South Africa, I have students in Belgium, and so on and so forth, Spain. And the question always comes around to me that people want to know, how can I remember what you do? How can I remember how you taught me to do this or that? And so, as you know, Christian, we've created some tools online and virtually created a platform on which you could review certain techniques and certain skills that we're doing, and at the same time that have an interactive communication link between us once you subscribe to that online teaching, so that you could actually write me a question and say, well, what about this particular thing? And then, given our ability to film me here, I would take that question on and then answer the question. But I thought I'd just speak about that because it has to do with a person's dedication and understanding of what it takes to stay dedicated and in one mindset, and not get involved in different mindsets that just simply lead to confusion. I know that many people will tell me that they want to practice allot, they want to practice taekwondo, and they want to practice aikido, and they want to practice jeet kune do, and whatever do. And what I find with that particular student is what will end up with them is they'll just get really confused, and then at some point they just create their own do, or whatever, and they never really progress very far in anything. It's kind of like being a jack of all trades and a master of none. That's not a good place to be, and what I feel that every student in the martial arts needs to spend that 10 years, looking for a great teacher. I talked about that one time when, there's an old saying, rather than spending 10 years training, spend 10 years looking for a good teacher. And once you find that teacher, then stay with them and get whatever you can from them. And I can only relate to my own experience, and in the way it related to my career. I've been training about 45 years, which is not a long time by, great teacher standards. I mean, great student standards. I mean, there's students that I know today that have been training 60, 70 years. Of course, that's almost an entire lifetime, and then they die. And they spend their almost entire life training in the martial arts. That's dedication. But 45 years, I think, is still long enough to have understood certain things about learning and how to communicate with other people so that they can become a so-called teacher, and then start relating what they've learned to other people so that they might not make the same mistakes that I made, and because I certainly made a lot of mistakes. But also to kind of accelerate your students' learning in order to become better than me. Because I feel that needs to be the goal of every teacher, is to become somebody that is going to help the person learning from them become better than them. If it's not about that, then I don't know what it's about. Other than just, some people decide, well, they're good enough to be a teacher and that they can open a dojo and start to make money. And then at that point, the money becomes the motive. And when that happens, it's lost. When I see master, or I hear people calling their teacher master, when I see master anything, that it's over for them. Those people have nothing else to learn, because in their mind they've created themselves as a master. And a master to me, in my mind, is somebody that has nothing else to learn, nothing left to learn. They've quote unquote mastered their art. Well, if you master your art, then you got nothing left to learn. Well, you might as well just quit, right? But they say, oh no, well, master such and such and master such and such, that's how we refer to each other because we're masters. But that master, the name master, simply to me is a manifestation of your own arrogance, your own selfish hanging on to how good you are and how good you look and what you mean to the world. And it's just a wrong place to be in your mind. And I think that's why I love what I feel Mo Sensei created in Aikido as a non-competitive martial art, as a way of humbling yourself and keeping yourself humble. And when I talk about that humility and that humble attitude, you have to have tools to learn that. Because just as a student needs to learn to be skillful, powerful, confident, courageous, and fearless, you at the same time have to learn kindness, compassion, humility, honesty, integrity, all these virtues that we talk about with the other martial arts that, mostly compete and just build each other up until everybody's wearing master. What happens with everybody's mastered, and then nobody's got a teacher because you're all masters, and you're calling Master Smith and Master so-and-so and Masters. It's a dead art. At that point, you're dead. You're done because there's nothing else to learn. And that kills off that other part of it. And in my own experience, I trained with, I've been blessed with many great teachers. And my former teacher could have been probably the greatest martial artist that ever walked this planet. He had it all. I mean, he was big, he was strong, he was flexible, he was smart, he was wise for his age. He just had it all. He had the wherewithal to. He had the charisma. He had people. He had that thing, that panache, that thing that brought people around to him. But he also had a very virtuous way of thinking about the martial arts, which I admired. And as soon as I got with him, early in 1983, I found that this is what I wanted out of Aikido. This was my real Aikido. Because I found a place where immediately I had come to him with a sandan out of classical Aikido. And my previous teachers before that, they were all caught up in the politics, and that's really what was driving me out of Aikido. After 10 years of Aikido, I was ready to quit. I mean, personally, I was just tired of all the bickering, the fighting, the infighting, the I'm better than them, and you're not as good as me, and I just saw it, and it was just prolific in the realm of Aikido. That martial art that's non-competitive, teaches peace and compassion, peace and harmony. But all I saw was politics. All I saw was backstabbing, and I hate to admit that I was part of that world, that egotistical, arrogant, selfish world. And but anyway, I was ready to quit. But I found a teacher that all of a sudden, on the first day of class, the first day of training with this guy, I found out what my sandan was worth. And at one point in time, I said, you know what, I'm going to give this to you. I'm going to take it off. I'm going to give me a white belt. I'm going back to the beginning. And he said, no, you're not going to do that. And I said, no, really. What you showed me today, this is what I want. And I'm willing to start over. And he says, well, you're not going to start over because you can't start over. You've done 10 years in Aikido. You're a sandan in Aikido under another teacher. But you will test for my yondan. You will test for your fourth dan under me. And at that day, you all have earned everything that you think you are today. And I said, well then, okay, I'll stay. And he said that another reason he wouldn't do it is because he would never dishonor another teacher. And that stuck with me all through my career and has always stuck with me, because here was a man that ultimately lost his way, ultimately became one of the worst teachers I've ever had in my life, and a disgrace in the world of Aikido. But we'll talk about that another time, maybe, and maybe not, probably not. But what it taught me was that there had to be this element in our training that completely humbled you, kept you in the right mindset. Because if you don't have that, then it's just easy to go into that egotistical, arrogant world, because there's nothing to hold you in check. There's nothing to remind you that you're not the most important or most powerful person in the world. You're just, every tough guy is going to be out-toughed by the next guy. They will. And think of competitive martial arts today. I mean, or any competition, for example, say for instance boxing. How long do they stay champion? I mean, once you reach the pinnacle, okay, how long do you stay champions? These guys are great fighters. These guys are really good fighters. But how long are they going to stay champion? You know, they reach the pinnacle, they reach the grand master, or whatever. But how long did they stay there? Because as soon as they get there, the next tough guy is going to want to go after him and knock him off. That's the nature of the game. So, what's the point? I mean, are you going to spend a whole career building up to this pinnacle to where you become the target and then you get knocked off? And then you become the has-been, and that's what they call it, has-been, because you have been there, but you still lose it. So there's no hanging on to it, because now you get beat and humiliated, and you've just got to disappear. Take your money and go. And this virtually happened to my teacher, who became a Hollywood movie star, made lots of money, and he made a lot of enemies. And he kept making enemies, and he couldn't dig himself out of the self-indulgent world that he had become. So all this to say, and I won't talk much more about that, but all this to say, it taught me a great lesson. It taught me what I wanted and what I didn't want. And so what happened is that when I got to the end of the road with my teacher, with my former teacher, and the one that I credit with who I am today mostly, but I credit all my teachers, and I would never dishonor a former teacher in any way, because it's their generosity and their sharing with me, them taking me under their wing, as so many of them did. I'm better off for that. And no matter, even if I walked away, even if I say, I walked to the end of the road with this man, my teacher, and at some point, there's a transference of, I don't know, it happens over time. With my former teacher I was with for almost 19 years, 18 plus years, and I was very tight with him. We had a very, very close relationship, but he gave that up for another world and fame and fortune. And I often speak of that fork in the road that I finally came to, and one led to the Aikido and what I felt the true path of the warrior, and one led to Hollywood and the dark side, of everything I didn't want. And so I chose, and I chose in that moment. There was no anger in me. He was quite angry with me, but I couldn't care about that, because I had come to the end of my path. And all this to say, it has shaped my thinking about what I want for my students going forward. And I say my students, but I would just say those people that embrace me as somebody that might know a little bit more than they do. So I always want to seek to have a more humble attitude towards them, because I know 100% sure that if I have my senior students on this mat with me today, that they would take me down in the randori, and I would have to suffer just as much as anybody that got older and weaker and couldn't move as good as they once did. There's an old song by Toby Keith that says, I'm not good as I once was, but I'm good once as I ever was. And I kind of stand in that, because the last fight that I'll get into, if I get attacked, I'm going to win. I have to, or I'll die. And I accept that. But that's why I want to continue to train, but train the right way with my my head bowed, and being grateful for anybody and everybody that's willing to listen to me and to learn the best way to continue their careers in the martial arts, which I think Aikido is a great path. I don't think it's the only path. I think all martial arts were basically created for the same thing, for the same reason, to give a person the skills and ability to protect themselves and when attacked, or under stress, or under pressure, or in a critical situation where they have to choose now and have the power of choice. And there's all these sub-lessons that I talk about. Choice is one of them. And these became more well known to me when I was involved with the landmark education. And if you want to know more about that, you can look that up on the internet. Landmark education it's an extraordinary way of looking inside of yourself through other people's eyes. And once again, that was important to me, because that's some of the things that we suffer from, is that view of how we think we look in front of somebody else. We get embarrassed. The last thing we want to do is be caught with our pants down in front of somebody that we don't know, that type of thing. But anyway, all this to say, has formulated my feelings about dawn testing and training in general. Because whether you're in Belgium or Germany or Spain or right here in my own dojo, you still have the capacity to learn. It's the fear of not being here with me, and then knowing that someday you're going to test with me, that keeps you from taking those steps that might, again, keep you in the right frame of mind and might help you continue to learn. Because people can learn from watching a video, but you still got to have that physical hands-on in order to understand the technique. And that's why in Aikido there's a in every martial art, when you talk about kumite or sparring or training, you have an uke, you have a nage, you have somebody that's going to suffer for your benefit. So you're going to throw them, they're going to give you the opportunity to put them down, they're going to risk their life and limb in order for you to practice the technique, or whatever it might be. Whether it's a punch, whether it's a kick, whether it's a grab, whatever. You always got to have that relationship. But that relationship is important to maintain, not destroy that relationship. And what happens in the competitive martial arts, you'll have those relationships as sparring partners. There's those people that help you, get to the championship rounds. But then at some point in time, you're going to beat them, or you're going to pummel them, or you're going to hurt them, or you're going to injure them, or they're going to injure you. And then in that moment, then the relationship is destroyed. In Aikido, what I believe is most important is that you don't have that. You want to have that relationship forever. You want to have people that understand how to train together, so they can get the most out of the lessons that were given to us by our previous teachers. Since they taught other people, that taught me, that I'm going to teach others. And we want to maintain those kind of relationships that help you nurture the next generation, so to speak, which we have every intention that are going to be better than me. Not that I'm going to be master. My goal is not to be master. My goal is to have people understand Aikido better than I do. And I know that sounds maybe too holy-roly, but it's the truth. Because if I can't do that, then why am I doing this? If I've accomplished everything I can accomplish, if I made all the money I can make on, but people just can't give that up. They want to make more. How much is enough? There was a movie that I did with my former teacher, and it was ironic because the bad guy, he says to the bad guy, how much is enough? Because the bad guy always wanted more, and cheat and lie and steal and kill for more. And it's ironic that he became just that kind of person who doesn't understand more. You got to have more. Well, I don't know that you got to have more, because more sometimes doesn't get you more. It gets you less. It makes you more enemies, more arrogant, more selfish, more self-indulgent. That's what it got him. And so, for all the more he thought he was getting less out of life. And that just doesn't make sense to me. So, I don't need more. What I need is maybe more understanding of other people and how to help them get to a better level so they understand that there is such a thing as enough. I have enough. And what I have now is an opportunity to help people understand that they don't have to have all the more, just understand how to be with themselves, how to be themselves, how to be that person that has grown from hard work and persistence and endured all the mistakes that you make in life, and now you're at a place where, enjoy life, enjoy what you have, appreciate what you have, because I have people all around me that they're so, even my own kids, and I love them to death, and I just want the best for them, and I've given them everything I can to help them understand how to get to a point in life where it's enough. It is enough. But the concept of more, we all too often know that concept. We want more. But sometimes it's just not, we lose the meaning of that. In any case, what I want to build into our Dan test, let's get back to the Dan test, what it means in the testing, what I want out of testing. One thing I didn't talk about when I talked about the Q testing last Friday, I still wanted to make sure that people understood that in our Q testing, between 5th Q, then you go to 4th Q, 3rd Q, knee Q, and 1st Q, and then ultimately preparing yourself for your first Shodan test or your black belt test, there's got to be time in between each of those steps. Now, I talked about the 5th Q, and we've had some people take that 5th Q test after 3 months of training. But this person came in with a good toolbox full of, he was in good shape, good cardio shape, had good coordination skills. He was a tenacious learner. He was smart. He was humble. He wanted to learn, and he listened. Good listeners. And there's people who have done that. Not too many, but we have had it. And then there's that person that, kind of fast track. You're looking at the guy, says, man, this guy's going pretty fast. We need to slow him down. But the thing is, that's why we designed it the way we did, because the first level, 5th Q, remember, was all about being safe on the mat. So the next level up is all about being able to avoid, right? Understand the concept of avoid, control, choose, right? Avoid getting punched, avoid getting grabbed, avoid getting kicked. If you can avoid getting kicked and punch, grab, or kick, you can't get hurt. Nobody's going to hurt you with, empty hands. But then we have to extend that to don't get hit with a brick, don't get shot, don't get stabbed, right? So that fourth Q level still encompasses all of that too. So it's still it's a difficult step. People think it's simple, not so simple. So then when you jump to 3rd Q, we talked about that's the level that we start having to, remember the technical names and the technical means of technique, and then we say you got to do 3 techniques from every attack, every punch, every grab, every kind of grab. Then the next level up from there, second cue, is what we introduce you to randori, or freestyle training, where you have two people that are just going to take you down. Forget technique. All you got to do is don't get taken down. And all that you know becomes manifest in that moment that they come and take you down. Because, if you get taken down, you haven't done very good, right? You can do anything you want. You can use all the technique, all the techniques you want, but in that moment you find out what you're worth. The first cue is the same thing, but then we ask you to do 5 techniques from every attack, every grab: katatori, ryokata, morotetori, kaotsuki, front kick, front punch, going behind and grabbing from behind. All these you have to do 5 techniques from every one of those attacks. People think that's kind of simple too. Not so simple. Then we end it with randori, okay? But at the first cue level, we introduce you to 3 people. Now, 3 people that I'm talking about are at the same level you are or higher. You never go down at that level. The second cue and first cue, we can't have people of lower rank testing with you, because that's just not fair. It's not fair to you, because you don't have people that understand the concept of honesty and integrity. In other words, if somebody punches at you honestly, your technique's going to work better. I guarantee it. People don't understand that because they don't understand that they get afraid of punching honestly. They say, well, we don't punch honestly because we don't want to hurt the other person. Well, if the other person knew how not to get hit in the first place at 4th cue, 2nd level cue grade, you wouldn't hit them. So, as a result, you could practice honestly. You could practice with full intention. Now, you might not go as fast, but you're still going to have the same intention. So that immediately distinguishes Makoto Aikido, because that gets people nervous. Because when I say a punch is a punch is a punch, if I say punch me, that means punch me. Because if you don't actually have the intention of punching, then my technique's not going to work. It won't. Because, well, it just won't. Because it's not designed to work against something that not honest. Otherwise, where's the connection with real life? Because what do you think somebody's going to do to you outside of here? Hold back on a punch? The crowd, hey, all that's just form. That's not an honest punch. They look like they're punching, but they're punching air. All they're going to do is get arthritis in their elbows from snap punching 1,000 times a day. That doesn't make sense to me. It's bad enough to get arthritic knees and elbows just getting old. But the intention is what distinguishes Makoto Aikido. You have to understand this. And in order to deal with that intention, you've got to have solid balance. You have to have this solid foundation, and that comes from understanding the center line. My center, my tanden, is critical in my understanding of me and how to deal with somebody else. And so we go through great pains to teach that and understand that concept of centering and staying on the line, controlling the line. If you don't control center, you can't control the intention. Okay, through the multiple ways that we have of deflecting and redirecting that punch or that grab or that knife attack or even that gunshot. Now I'm not saying that we're going to stop a bullet. We're not going to catch a bullet in our teeth, but if we can, manage to get within arm's distance of that person with a gun, I can almost guarantee you we can get that gun away from that guy before he shoots you. Now, at distance, you got to have the presence of mind just to make sure you do what you're supposed to do. That's called choice. And you have to have presence of mind to make that proper choice. Otherwise, you just get shot and then you're dead, in most cases. So, and there's a whole lot of talking that needs to be done around that too. But let's just talk about, go back to, I left off at first cue, 5 techniques, every attack. So going forward in a Dan test, okay, I do still have a strategy of thinking about what needs to be had after, as you go into the Dan test. Because your first Shodan test is identical test to the first cue. The first cue test is your kind of like your pre-Shodan test, right? It's the last test you're going to take before then you get to take your Shodan and call yourself a black belt. And that level is very humbling. And that's what I'm talking about when I talk about what do we want out of our testing. Because we want great skills, we want great endurance, we want great cardio, we want great coordination skills, and so on and so forth. Confidence and courage and the capacity to be kind, compassion, honesty, integrity, integrity. But we also want to build those other virtues of humility and generosity and the ability to share, articulate ways of saying things that people can understand. These are all things that get built in a great leader. And a leader is somebody that people are willing to follow. A leader is not somebody that says, follow me, That may be somebody that wants to be a leader, but I don't want to go with that guy. That guy's an idiot, And so there's a lot of people like that. Come with me, I can teach you, I know everything, I'm master so-and-so. I don't think so, right? I'm going to go with a guy that doesn't have to say that. I'm going to go with, I found a teacher that didn't have to toot his own horn. When I got with my former teacher, he was totally the opposite of what he is today. I mean, today he will tell you he's the greatest thing since sliced cheese or whatever. I mean, he just can't stop talking about him, himself. And that's a dark place to go. Because I want to follow that person that doesn't need to do that. Doesn't need to toot his own horn. Doesn't need a championship ring. Doesn't need any of that. Somebody that's kind of at a place where, I'm happy. I got enough. And that's the person I want to be around and learn from, because that person will give me everything. He won't hold me back. He'll give me everything. And when I got with my first teacher, that's the kind of guy he was. I had many private lessons with the guy at no cost. I had many opportunities just to walk and talk about teachers and how to learn and all this kind of stuff, no cost. Okay? Never charged me for anything. Went to his ranch in Montana up in Shasta. We had such wonderful times. I mean, these were just incredible times at no cost. And so this is what I always celebrate about my former teacher, because he gave me so many things to be grateful for, that he kind of just destroyed all that with his own, evolution. And that's okay. But I found my way, and that's all that's important. So what's now important is that I communicate to you how to develop a great Dan system, consistent with, and yet stay consistent with what the Homba Dojo wants out of this as well. They want good leaders. They want good people. They want people that are really representative of the best of Aikido, and really want to represent and stay humble to the teachings of Wo Sensei, the legacy of Wo Sensei, and now the Doshu Moriteru Shiva, who's a wonderful man. He's a great teacher, and when you're around him, he's just the most humble guy you'll ever want to meet. And I just love the guy, and he's given me the opportunity to have my own autonomous organization, and that's what I'm very grateful for. And now I can continue to develop my own thinking, my own mind, and thoughts about what I think Aikido can be and needs to be, because I'm very adamant about what I feel the value of Aikido is. And it goes all the way back to what I started talking about tonight, and that's the capacity to be humble, and still proud, still skillful, still courageous, still fearless, all that kind of stuff but still have that element of humility that, you'll share but not be trodden over. You'll give, but not to the point that you'll kill yourself or your family. I would lay down my life in a heartbeat for any one of my students. People that are around me know that. But I'm not going to be stupid compassion either. You go out there and give my life, jump in an ocean of sharks to save, somebody that was killing sharks. You kill sharks, you get eaten by sharks. Well, you kind of got what you had coming to you. It's another off topic. But let's go back to Dan testing. So Shodan is, a lot of people call about rebirth. It's not a rebirth. It's not. It's just an opportunity to understand what you don't know. Every test that I have, it should be, like I said, it has to be a test. At every level, what I think the most valuable thing that you're going to get out of the test is what you don't know. Okay? Because your test is going to take you to failure. It's got to. If it takes you to just success and you walk out of it going, yeah, I'm champion, that test ultimately failed you. The teacher failed you. That's the problem with all these trophy hunters and people that give away trophies, and because they'll only put 3 people in a class of, where there's 3 rewards. So you know why? So that everybody gets a reward. You know why? Because they're going to come back and pay you more money for a piece of plastic that don't mean anything. That's how it works. I mean, when you go out into most Taekwondo, Karate Do, Taekwondo, whatever do, most of the time you walk into that dojo and the first thing they want you to see is that humongous wall full of trophies and shiny objects. And people go, whoa, that's cool. I want one of those. And by God, you'll get one of those. They'll give you a lot of those. But you're going to pay a lot of money for them. And they're going to be meaningless. They're going to be worthless in the end. Man, what are you going to do? Take them with you? It just doesn't make any sense. Make fishing lures out of them or something, because that's about what they're worth. So Aikido to me teaches me to stay humble, and yet at the same time, like I said, you've got to have the tools to stay humble. You have to incorporate those exercises that help you stay humble. And randori is the element in our way of training that keeps you humble. Because everybody will fail at one point or another. However, as you grow in skill, we increase the possibility that you'll succeed in that exercise. And you will see that how I've seen my students rise to levels that I feel I couldn't have done. And there was a day, not long ago, probably about 6, 7 years ago, 8 years ago, that there was a time on this mat here that I saw 3 of my students, and I was so amazed. I was just, on that day I was humbled, because I said there comes a time in every teacher's career where you see your student do something you couldn't have done. And I really truly believe that. I saw 3 of my students rise to a level of perfection, of sheer greatness. And I knew I couldn't have done it. And I was so proud of them for getting to that level. But at that point, I also could feel a sense of pride for myself that I got them to that level. That was the day I felt the best about me, in a sense, because these 3 had risen to a level that was above my skill level. And I'll never forget the day, and I'll never forget those 3 young men that are getting older, because I'm getting older, but it's rewarding in that regard. And that's what keeps me going right now. So going back to the Dan testing. Dan testing is a time when you're put to the test and you start to learn what you don't know and what you need to work on, and you get challenged and you get inspired to go to the next level. So the Dan test, the Shodan test, is exactly like the first Q test, only I expect you to be better at what it is that we're doing. I expect 5 techniques from every attack. And at the same time, the difference between the first Q test and the Shodan test, the real Shodan test, is that once again, it's who your partners are going to be that will help you rise to another level. See, when you're in a Shodan test, you don't get to train with Q levels. It's not that they're not good. It's not that they're not tough kids or people. It's just that they're not going to challenge you. Another Dan test, another Dan grade, another Shodan, another Nidan, Sandan, they've been through this. So they understand, and it's now payback time kind of. I don't mean that, but the idea is that they're going to be honest. And also, they're going to be able to take whichever you're going to dish out. So they can humble you. They can have the capacity to keep you at a humble level. You see what I'm saying? You're not going to walk out of that test, that Shodan test, ever with your chest puffed out like a peacock. No way. I won't let you do it. Because if I let you do that, then you will not have grown. You will not be pushed into that point where you go into failure and you understand what you don't know. Here's a time when you'll start to understand what you don't know. You'll start to understand what you need to work on. You'll start to understand your weaknesses so that you can turn them into your strengths. But if you don't get pushed to that level, you'll never understand that. You'll only understand, well, I was really good at what I was good at. That's all. And they'll reward you for being good at what you think you're good at, and that'll be the end of it. And then you go on to the next level, and then they give you another list of stuff you do, and you do that, and good for you. Then you get to the next level, you know. But the growth won't be there. It'll be, what will also grow is your arrogance, your egotistic mentality, your self-indulgence, all that, your selfishness. Well, that's also will grow. And this is the opposite of what we want to happen through our Dan testing. Throughout your Dan testing. See, in our organization, we test through fourth Dan. In the old classical style, they only test through Sandan. You're supposed to test for fourth Dan. But after the war and after, the suppression of martial arts in Japan, Aikido became something different. And I'm not saying that it's not valuable, because Aikido is a wonderful martial art and it should be trained by everybody. I believe that in my heart and soul. However, it's got to find a better way to train in Aikido. Train for the way Aikido needs to be today. And one of the ways it needs to be is to maintain a humble mindset. And you've got to have randori the way we do it. But you've got to build up that student in order to do randori at the level that you want them to do. You've also got to build in the weapons training. Okay, training with the Jo, the Volcan. That gets started early as well. I don't talk about that too much right now. I'll do that on another time. But all this starts to gel at the higher levels. And once you become Shodan, you start to get the idea that, man, I got a lot to learn. I got a lot more work to do. And yet you're going to be able to put on that hakama and be recognized as a leader. You're going to be recognized as somebody that has gone through, walked the path, so to speak. You're going to be seen as somebody who says, wow, you did a Dan test with that guy? Yeah. Wow. I'm impressed. That's pretty cool. Well, it was hard, but if you work hard, you'll see what I'm talking about. Well, what was it like? I don't know. I don't really remember. I was too tired. It's kind of, after your test, it's just kind of oblivious to you. You work so hard, and you just did what you had to do. You just kind of don't remember what went on. I'll remember what went on because I make notes and all that kind of stuff. But I remember what it was for me. I'll never forget the day that I took my fourth Dan test, which really should have been my Shodan test. And when I think about it, I go back, I was willing to give up my Sandan to my former teacher. When I saw the way he did Aikido, how he did Aikido, and the severity that he built in to the test, not just to be tough, but to teach me humility, to teach me and to share with me what I didn't know, what I didn't understand, how valuable my Sandan was to me, because, and I won't take it away from my other teachers, because I felt that I had a core to learn, and that's why I think I became a better student for my former teacher, because I already had the foundation built, and I shared. For him, I was valuable too, because when he came to the United States, I was able to share everything I knew about Aikido in the United States, in the Western world. And when he came back from Japan in 1983. So all this to say is that, I have built into the Makoto way of Aikido, and I still celebrate that severity of training, that's intensity in training, because the apparent chaos and what do we call it? Intensity, the apparent violence that it looks like to somebody untrained or that doesn't know us, will say that's really mean, that's really harsh. But the people that are involved in it, we have very few injuries. We've had injuries, and stuff happens. We all know that, and that's the risk we take in training hard. But the growth, the kind of people that we produce, they're leaders. They turn into police officers. They take high-ranking jobs. They're well respected in the world. You find them, they just become leaders, and that's rewarding for me. So that's really the structure of our Dan testing. I can go through the particulars, but the Dan test, first Dan through fourth Dan, they're severe tests. They are rough tests. That push you to the next level. And once again, there's a time lapse that has to occur between each level. Between your shodan, it takes probably on average, it takes about 3 to 4 years of hard training, consistent training, dedicated training to get their shodan. At least that. Some, have trained with me 12 years and still don't have their shodan, which is kind of odd. And he never did. He quit. He got too old and decided he didn't want to wear a hakama. And that was too bad, because he could have gotten it. And then there's the rock and rollers that come in and they do their shodan in 3 years, which is amazing. Very rare, just as rare as that person that stays 12 years and doesn't get a shodan. And then after that, there's a number of years. The Homa Dojo, there's a year that has to pass before you can even qualify to take your second dan, which does incorporate weapons training as well, disarming technique. And then there's Sandan is another level that you'll learn with additional weapons training and Bokan and the Jo as well. And then the fourth Dan is, again, a very high level test in our organization, and the excellence that's expected will come out, and you'll see. Our Yondan tests have just been spectacular. And people come out of that test watching those people going, holy mackerel, I want to be just like that. I want to do that, And then there's probably the majority that says, I don't want to do that. I can't do that. I can't do it. And it's only because they're looking at it from their perspective of where they are now. They've got to get into that dojo and put forth the effort and be brought up step by step. Don't be in a hurry. If you're in a hurry, it's not gonna work. You just won't. I've seen hard rockers come in from other martial arts and I'm going to get my shodan, my black belt in Aikido, and they end up getting hurt within a couple months, and then they're out of here. So our Dan system is built upon a foundation of the Q system. The Q system has to give those students those basic building blocks and build them up to a point where they can actually understand and start to understand what they don't understand, at every level. And be willing to put themselves in front of their peers in a way that helps them understand what they don't know and how to make those weaknesses their strengths. That's the Dan system. And then after fourth Dan, you don't test anymore. And then fifth Dan and sixth Dan, this is when you start to be recognized as somebody that has been able to give back. Fifth Dan is I'd like to say it's a political thing, but it's not really, because up to fourth Dan, you just looked at as a hardcore student. But in some cases, you open a dojo and you get to run your own show and all that kind of stuff. But still, Homba Dojo has a system of Fukushidoin and Shidoin. And Fukushidoin goes up to Sandan. So third Dan is just still an assistant instructor. And then fourth Dan, you become what they call a Shidoin. And Shidoin is a person that's actually can start to be called a sensei. And so after fourth Dan, you can take on the title of sensei if you run your own school and you start to accumulate students that are following you. You can actually take on the title of sensei. But it's not until you become a Rokudan, sixth Dan, that you can actually have your own organization legally under the Homba Dojo. And then once you become Rokudan, you don't automatically become Shihan. Shihan is another title that is bestowed upon you by the Doshu, the head of Aikido in the world. And it only comes a minimum of 6 years after becoming Rokudan. And then you have to be given this, bestowed this by a panel of your peers at the Homba Dojo. And go to Japan and receive it from the Doshu. And it's quite an honor, and I've been very humbled by the whole process because I never really imagined me becoming a Shihan and Rokudan under the Homba Dojo. And beyond this, people say, well, why don't you go get your Nanadan? I don't know. I think it's enough. I don't need anything more. All I need is this where I'm at because I have everything. I have great students. I have a great dojo. I have the rank to be seen as a leader. Perhaps I don't have enough rank to make a living anymore at it because nobody wants to hire an old, just a Rokudan. They'd rather go for that guy that's got a Nanadan or a Hachidan. He's a worthless teacher, but because he has rank, that makes him more valuable. That doesn't make him more valuable, by the way. It's rare to see those high-ranking people, but look around you. Look at the people. Look at the Hachidan. What kind of person is he? Is he still a person that's willing to give you the shirt off his back? Step in front of a gun for you? Probably not, because he's probably so, involved with himself. I'm not saying everybody is like that, and I think there's a lot of high-ranking people that are just really great people. And of course, that to me is one of the goals of the Dan system. If you get raised the right way, the ultimate outcome is you'll understand when it's enough. And that's where I'm at today. So right now, that's enough. I've talked enough. I like to talk about things that people want to hear me talk about and to give you my own personal perspective, and I appreciate anybody that's willing to listen to it. So for tonight, enough. Good night. Howdy.